Hello everybody, and how's it going? I'm finally back in my own home to do some videos, and I'm coming to you with another team fundamentals video. The CLS one got a lot of positive feedback in the comments from newer players, and I wanted to keep doing it for other teams, and it's been very requested. So the second one we're doing is Padme Amidala team. I don't know why I said Padme Amidala team. And if you're a late gamer, you got JMK and Qui-Gon Jinn all built up. This team you're not really using in its current form because you have GK with Jedi Master Kenobi, same with Ahsoka, and Anakin kind of goes with Qui-Gon Jinn, and Padme is on a Jedi Master Kenobi team as well. Mace can go in a lot of places. But if you're newer in early game, Jedi Master Kenobi is kind of a tall order. He takes a long time to get, especially with Wat Tambor out there. Not super easy for newer players to get. So you're going to be wanting to make use of this Padme team very often, especially early on. As soon as you unlock her, it's going to be a fantastic team. It plays very well into fleets. And I have Mace Windu here as the fifth because I think he's super easily accessible and he slots very well. But the core four are what's important here. Padme, Anakin, General Kenobi, Ahsoka, and then you could put C-3PO here, but I recommend putting him with the CLS team. He can have R2, but I think Mace is quite stronger here. But the fifth is flexible, but for the purposes of this video, we'll just be talking about Mace. So what we're going to be talking about is character mechanics, starting with Padme, going all the way down through to Mace Windu. We're going to be talking about modding, my modding, and then what the majority of high-end Kyber 1 players use and why. We're going to talk about Zeta order priority and focus on some teams that they do well against and particular mechanics that they are strong against. So I hope you learned something. But for beginners, let's start with the cornerstone of the team, Padme herself as the leader and how she makes this team work. So first of all, her leadership gives you a lot of health, plus 50% health, and it's all light side health. It's not just Galactic Republic, but you're going to want Galactic Republic for the full team anyway. While they have protection up, they resist all debuffs and can't be critical hit. That is super valuable. They get protection up like crazy. When they get attacked out of turn, that's on our unique, I'll talk about it. They're going to get protection up, so most of the time they're not going to be critically hit or debuffed, which is super valuable. But at the beginning of their turn, they take all that protection up, all the dispellable protection up. You're going to get undispellable protection up from getting attacked out of turn. Then they convert this protection up into courage for each 5% protection up dispel. And then how courage works, you need 5 stacks for it to do anything. If you have 4 or less, it's just going to stay there and wait. If you have 5 stacks or more, you're going to deal bonus damage equal to 40% of the target's max health. So that's not going to do anything against like the Color Red and Masters of the world, so be careful how you use it. But it's a super valuable tool, and people use it in the endgame all the time with a Moff Gideon, and I'll talk about that mechanic too as kind of a bonus. But for the unique, as I reference to, she's also immune to fear, which is kind of nice, helps you against Darth Revan, although you don't usually use this against Darth Revan too much. But whenever they lose protection up, they're recovering their health. Also, your allies can't gain or lose bonus turn meter. Kind of sucks that you can't gain it, but not losing it is very helpful, and you can cheese it with Moff Gideon, which I'll go into in a little bit. But this is what I was talking about earlier. Whenever an enemy attacks on a turn against a Galactic Republic ally, they get 10% up protection, but if she's in the leader slot, 40%. The 40% increase is on the Zeta, and also the fact that it's undispelled is on the Zeta. Now this is the protection up that is not getting dispelled. If it's locked, I don't know if you don't have the Zeta if it turns into courage, but if it's locked, you do not convert it into courage. It just goes away. It's helping protect you from attacks out of turn as they come in. So that's the main thing. The team's really good against attacks out of turn, and then they use that protection up, which a variety of the team gives out too, and they turn it into massive damage. A key move for her is her middle special, this green one, Cunning Plan. Everyone recovers 50% health, which is nice, but you're dispelling all debuffs. Not only that, you're turning it into protection up. So the more debuffs you have on you, if you're going against like a Darth Revan team, say, and Basilisk Unfallen spam to all her debuffs, you're going to turn this into a ton of protection up and therefore a ton of bonus damage. It's only for one turn. I mean, it goes away and turns into courage, but it's super helpful. You can really turn the tide, even if you're in a hairy situation, as long as Padme gets a turn. Her basic is kind of simple. I'll just talk about that real quick. You can't be evaded, which is kind of nice, and it gives out protection up, 10% to all allies. So if you're trying to generate a little bit more courage, you might as well just use the basic. And then her kick. This is a really nice move. People don't usually mod her for much potency, but if you do, it's going to help her land an irresistible or undispellable stun. It's not going to come off of them. And all light side allies with protection up and Anakin assist. So be careful when you use this. Make sure a majority of your team has protection up. If Anakin doesn't have it, that's fine. But if no one has protection up, she's only going to call Anakin in. So that's why the AI is not always smart. I think if they don't have a lot of debuffs, they start with the kick, which is not usually what you want to do. You want to wait till you have some protection up on the team and then use this. But be choosy. Try to save this for when you need it. Maybe you need a heal or you know you're going to get a lot of debuffs. Save that. If you really need to stun someone or get big damage on someone, you can use this. But be choosy with how you use those specials. And that is Padme. Next up, we have Padme's Paramour, Jedi Knight Anakin, and he has a pretty simple kit, but very effective. He is a big damage dealer, not just from his own massive damage that he does just from normal calculations, but he helps generate protection up for the team. So this special, it's an unavoidable AoE, and for each critical hit, all allies gain protection up 10% stacking. So if he critically hits the whole enemy of 5, you get 50% protection up. So it's really useful. So if they have crit immunity, you might want to save this. So just keep an eye out on that. Like the amount of protection up does vary based on the crits. Also, I think this is often overlooked, but super powerful. All allies, not even like conditional on Galactic Republic, they all gain offense up and crit chance up for 2 turns. Those are very powerful buffs combined together. So that's really nice for the team. And only if Padme is an ally, you're going to dispel all buffs on all enemies, which is nice. So it's a mass dispel if you have Padme. So if you're running this on a Padme squad, which is the subject of this video, you are doing so much with this move. You're giving your whole team great offensive buffs, you're clearing off all the enemy's buffs, and you give them protection up to turn into courage damage, which is great. Also, it's basic. You might want to use it strategically. So it's very strong, it's got a good damage multiplier, but it's also inflicting healing immunity and buff immunity. So this is very key in some counters. If you're trying to take on a Darth Revan team, which you might be, you want it. This is the only way you're going to get through Malik, because the courage doesn't affect him. You need to inflict the buff immunity and healing immunity. So be choosy with that. If the whole enemy team has like crit immunity, or you're facing another Padme team and they all have protection up, you're probably not going to want to use that AoE. That's when you might want to use that basic. He's only got 2 moves there that you can actually use in battle, so not too much to think about. And then for his unique, very powerful. It's active on any team, not just Galactic Republic. So whenever an ally falls below 50% health, except Anakin, it says another ally. So that just means anyone else. He takes a bonus turn, and if all allies are Galactic Republic, you do 100% more damage. So that's another reason you might want to save that AoE. You want to wait for this to trigger to get more damage out. And then also, if Padme is an ally, she's taking a bonus turn after each of Anakin's bonus turns. So that's the Zeta there, the Padme bonus turn. That's a nice combo. Like, it's really hard to get stopped unless the enemy targets Anakin first. So if you're on offense, more likely than not, you're going to get some chances to get big damage out there. And also, I've been talking about crit immunity on enemies. If it's dispellable, I think you just dispel it and get this damage out there. But if it's a Padme team with a locked buff or something, if it's a locked crit immunity, that's when you're going to want to hold off on that. But if it's just a normal dispellable crit immunity, you might be able to just pull that special whenever. Next up, we got General Kenobi, who is probably the most flexible tank in the game, and the 4th best fleet commander in my opinion. Probably going to be recommending that fleet for beginners a lot more starting next year. That's a subject for another video. But what General Kenobi does, most important thing is he's unique, is his engine. He can give himself foresight at the end of his turn. That happens occasionally. That is pretty nice. One of the best things is he's taunting constantly. That's this clause here. That is his Zeta, though, and it's going to be a pretty important Zeta. It's basically a permanent taunt. So whenever any Galactic Republic ally loses protection up, he taunts for 1 turn. And if you've noticed, this team has a lot of protection up, so you're going to have basically a perma-taunt. And I think that it doesn't include him when he loses protection up, but if like they hit anyone, basically, like that just means taking damage. If they have protection up and they take damage, then he's going to taunt, so it's all the time. And he also, whenever an ally gets critically hit, he gives them crit immunity for 1 turn and then taunts. So if they're getting crit, he taunts. That's just general, though. That is not the Zeta. So if you're trying to just get away without as all the Zetas, you might be able to make that work. You're just kind of relying on allies getting critically hit for him to taunt. But that hitting at crit immunity is super valuable. Next thing we'll look at is just his basics. Pretty simple, but he can give out foresight to a random ally. 75% chance. So 3 out of 4 times he's going to do it. and it's for 2 turns. So you're really handing out foresight like candy. If all allies are buffed, deal double damage, but you don't really care about his damage. It's not really important. Next thing we'll want to look at is this Mass Assist. This is super flexible because it works with any buffed allies. It doesn't even have to be light side, let alone Galactic Republic. But you want to be choosy with it. So look at your team, see if they all have buffs on them. That's when you're going to want to pull it. Otherwise, you might want to use the cleanse or maybe just even a basic. There are a lot of times you might want to save both specials and use the basic. But they deal 30% less damage except for Jedi Anakin and Ahsoka Tano. So it's pretty nice. And you're also giving another random ally offense up. So if you don't have offense up from Anakin, you're going to give it out with Kenobi there. Next, or the last special we have, last ability I'm going to talk about. I'll look at this lead for a second, but it's not really that important. The cleanse. So he can cleanse the whole team. Doesn't have to be light side or Galactic Republic, but this is a Padme team. This is one you're going to want to be more choosy with. So you might just want to use it when there are no debuffs on the team, just to give retribution. So if you don't have any debuffs, you're going to give out retribution. However, even if there's a lock debuff, even though you're not dispelling it, you will not gain retribution. So that's something to think about. He gives himself turn meter with a 2, but on a Padme team, that is irrelevant. That's not actually happening. But one thing you want to keep in mind, if you have a lot of debuffs on you and Padme is coming up on a turn and she still has her heal, check your turn order. If she's coming up soon enough to where it's not going to affect you, save it and leave the debuffs there and let her flip them into protection up. It's going to be super valuable. So you got to be choosy with how you use his specials. His leadership is extra max health and defense for Jedi and clones, but you don't usually use his leadership much. 4 is Ahsoka Tano, and the most valuable thing about her is her constant dispelling and assisting. So first of all, off her basic, dispel all buffs on the enemy. If they have foresight, it can't be evaded. That doesn't mean it can't be evaded at all. If they have just high evasion, this can be evaded. It just means if they have foresight, it's not going to stop. Well, foresight ensures that you hit, so it's kind of a unique situation. So if they have tons of buffs and a foresight, just point at that character, and then Ahsoka will assist when you do a special. I'll look at the unique in a second. On a critical hit, which she crits a lot, dispel all debuffs on herself and another random Galactic Republic ally. So you're going to be cleansing a lot, which might not be great for converting into protection up, but it is kind of nice in every other situation. She also recovers 15% health if there's another 5 of her ally, but that doesn't really come into play often. But her unique is fantastic. First of all, she's kind of stat weak. Like if you look at her stats, not super impressive, but it gets modified a lot by her unique. So she's getting 40% max health, 10% evasion, 10% crit chance, and 25 speed, all doubled while she has critical hit immunity. She gains critical hit immunity with General Kenobi and Jedi Anakin on the team. So she gets 2 for 2 turns at the start of the encounter, just for Anakin being there, and then whenever she uses special ability. So actually, it's just about Jedi Anakin. Someone General Kenobi in here somewhere, I thought, but Jedi Anakin's an ally. She's gonna get these stats a lot, but if she doesn't have crit immunity, then she's actually a lot weaker, which a lot of people tend to miss. And this is the most important thing. If the ally leader is Galactic Republic, she's called to assist when another Galactic Republic ally uses a special ability. So she is constantly assisting, constantly dispelling, and you just always, even if you're using a move that doesn't like damage anyone, you need to pay attention to where your target marker is, because Ahsoka is going to come in there and hit them, dispel buffs on them, a lot of great stuff. So really just be choosy, be intentional with how you play and target enemies. Dispelling taunts is especially useful. Then her one special, just big damage. I tend to spam it whenever it's available, just on the best, on the highest priority target that you're trying to kill. It's a good bit of damage. If Anakin or General Kenobi is an ally, deal damage again. So if they're both there, like in a 5v5 situation, you're going to hit 3 times. So it's going to be pretty good damage. And if the leader's Galactic Republic, which should be all the time, 50% more damage. And she's also going to heal and give protection up for 1 turn, 20%. So tons of protection up. Pretty much everyone is giving out protection up in some way. I don't think General Kenobi doesn't really do it. But yeah, so that's how she works. She's just there assisting constantly, cleansing, dispelling, lots of great stuff. And also, she has a leadership too, which no one really uses. It's from the beginning of the game where there was a nod to Night Sisters. I don't know if there were. I don't think there was like a real Night Sister leader. There was old Daka that gives out evasion, or a turn meter when evading, but no one really uses that. And people don't usually use Mace Windu's leadership either. It's just kind of there. It's a nod to his former self. But yeah, Mace Windu is the last one we're talking about. A lot of his kit is kind of nullified with Padme, but he does a lot of good stuff as well. Ability block on the basic is probably the most useful thing here. Does bonus damage equals max health. So if you're modding for a lot of health, that's going to do get some pretty nice extra damage. But this part isn't active. Against 15% turn meter if the target's above 50% health. Can't gain turn meter on a Padme team, so that's not really a consideration. If they're below health, he's recovering some health too, which hopefully you're not under health, but if he is, use a basic might help. This first special is mainly just a stun. I mean, target someone with Shatter Point if it's there. You can stun, remove buffs, dispel all buffs, remove turn meter, and he would give himself turn meter, not on a Padme team, but he doesn't here, because you obviously can't gain turn meter. And this one is a turn meter swap as long as you're targeting an enemy with Shatter Point. That's really nice. Even though you can't gain turn meter on a Padme team, you can do this, which is effectively giving him a lot of extra turn meter and then giving a lot of extra turn meter to another ally. And then it's just a nice protection recovery, 30% protection, and he's giving himself a resilient defense. So he's an extra taunter. Could be helpful, but General Kenobi mainly is going to do the job for you. But that might be a reason you don't need to get a Zeta right away on General Kenobi. And then Vapad, he gains max health. Into each turn, if another ally with protection was damaged, he gains resilient defense, which is making him taunt. While he has resilient defense, he's getting 10% offense per stack and 100% counter chance. So, like, as long as you have any stacks, he's countering all the time. So if they target him, he's going to counter. Might give them ability block, which is kind of nice. And yeah, that's just the description for what resilient defense is. His last unique, which was a big part of his rework, has an Omicron, but I won't talk too much about that. Mace gains 30% offense, and at the start of his turn, he dispels stealth on all enemies. Super useful. That could be useful against a bounty hunter team, a variety of teams that you might come across. Super valuable. And he inflicts a random enemy with speed down and Shatter Point. Shatter Point just does good stuff when you hit it. If you hit someone with Shatter Point, everyone is going to recover 10% protection. So it's great for banners and Grand Arena on offense. And then Galactic Republic Jedi allies gain Foresight for 1 turn. And that's most of the team. That's 4/5 of the team, everyone except Padme. So you're going to get Foresight. So another great reason to have them on the team. And then Shatter Point, when you hit someone with it, you're reducing everything. Their defense, max health, and offense by 10%. So very potent. So it's worth going out of your way just to target that enemy. If Shatter Point pops up on them, you want to go at them with Mace, and just be choosy with how you use it. If you need someone to lose some buffs or not take a turn, I mean, Ahsoka's going to come in and assist anyway, but if you need to stun someone, use this. If someone needs some recovery, like a lot of times General Kenobi, but Padme maybe would be great too, because you want to make sure you keep them alive. Just swap turn meter with them, give them an extra crucial turn. And that is Mace, and that is all for the mechanics on this team. And last thing with Mace, I'll talk about his Omicron just a little bit. I don't have it. I don't have a lot of TW Omicrons, but it's getting Shatter Point out there a lot more often. Each other light side ally's turn. So there's going to be Shatter Point out there constantly, along with speed down. And then you're generating a turn meter on the team. The turn meter is not going to apply under a Padme team, obviously, because one's gaining turn meter, but it's just Shatter Points given out like candy. So you could give that to him, you could not. It's only Omicron really applicable to this team, and you can use them with a variety of teams. So apply it if you really care about TW, but I obviously have it myself. And now to talk about modding, starting with my own modding on the team. Not that it's optimal, but I'll talk about why I have each mod. So mainly you want a lot of health and good speed on Padme. I preferred her to be the fastest character on the team, because you can give out the protection up and turn around any debuffs, and then the whole team's going to hit really hard. So how I have her modded specifically, health primaries are recommended. I have good speed, except this one. She's lower priority for me right now. I use her in 3v3, but if I were a newer player, I'd have higher priority on her speed mods. And also, I don't have a health triangle. These are kind of scarce for me with the health or health, like health set, health primary, or speed set and health primary. And they're kind of scarce for me, and I don't have a ton of them to go around. So I gave her defense. I mean, it's going to help her survive more, but generally you do want more health. But this is also pretty tanky because it's got extra protection. Speed arrow, I think, is the way to go. You could also do health, just go all in, but I do want her to be the fastest, so that's why I have that. Also, he's not being prioritized super highly for mods right now, so that's why I'm not going to say my mods are optimal. But even so, up to 298 speed, she is the fastest character that I have on this team. Next up, Jedi Knight Anakin. I highly recommend crit damage sets if you're running him under Qui-Gon. Under Padme, you could use crit damage sets, you could use offense sets. It's not a huge deal, but Qui-Gon multiplies his offense a lot already, so that's why I have crit damage. But either work fine. So definitely a crit damage triangle. He's doing a lot of. He's probably the only real big damage dealer outside of the courage you have. Do you want as much damage as possible, which is crit damage mandatory for him. Crit chance is also good to have because he doesn't have maxed out crit chance. I have him at 86% right now, even with the what's the bonus I have on him? Even with crit chance set. So he's at 13%, not quite 100. And even though I have a crit damage set, I want a lot of offense too. So wherever I can squeeze it in, go for that. Offense cross for sure. Give him more speed if you can, and potency is something you want to squeeze in when you can too. So I have a little bit of potency here and there. So mostly focused on speed and then offense, but then potency if you really can manage it. So I have potency there too. Don't have potency here. I could be more choosy, but I just needed a crit chance. Arrow, and you do want speed here. In my opinion, you want Anakin to go second. So it's easy to remember, like that order that I have them shown on the screen is the order you want them to go in. You want Padme to go first and then Anakin. Not necessarily General Kenobi, but definitely could be. Yeah, speed, offense, potency, and just squeeze them all in. All are viable. And also one thing I'm not doing optimal for Padme team, I have a protection circle. You really want health. So if you don't know already, health is what converts into protection up. That's something that's not very well explained in game, but protection up is based on the character's max health, not the protection at all. And the reason being is because not all characters have protection. Like under gear 7 you don't have protection, so you wanted protection up to work even for characters under that level. Kind of an interesting mechanic. It came in a little bit late in the development of the game, like after a couple of years. So that's why you want health across the board on the team. You just want health, especially for General Kenobi. And I might not have exactly the modding you want for a Padme team because I have him on a General Kenobi team and I want him really slow. He's tanking a lot of hits, and if I put damage immunity on him, I like to do this when he has low turn meter if I'm using Giant Master Kenobi with him, because I put damage immunity, and then he has it for a very long time. So that's why I have him really slow on purpose. But on a Padme team, you want to focus on speed more. So speed is something you don't want to neglect, and you do want a lot of health. So like, you could do like defense primaries, but whether it's a Jedi Master Kenobi team or a Padme team, you want health primaries on these 4 mods. If you could get it on the square or diamond, I would go for health there too, but you can't. So health primary, a lot of speed, any defensive stats you can throw in, like defense itself, protection, even though you care more about health, protection is still great for him. He has a great protection pool. Shove that in wherever you can, and don't neglect speed entirely like I'm doing. Like this doesn't even have speed on it, and that was on purpose. But yeah, shove in protection, defense, all that stuff. He's pretty simple. Don't really care about offensive stats on him at all. Ahsoka Tano, she is more similar to Anakin. She's a damage dealer. She's assisting all the time, so her damage comes from a bulk number of attacks, but she doesn't hit quite as hard as him. Even so, you want to mod for health, give her more speed. She's low priority for me because he's just assisting a lot. Like, her turn isn't always that crucial because most of her thing is attacking out of turn. So the speed, I'm not as concerned about. And also remember, she's getting plus at least 25 speed up to 50. So her effective speed is at least 241 here, maybe 266. Crit damage triangle for sure. And shove in offense where you can. Another option is just more health. So I would go with an offense set and a health set. By the way, on Anakin, you could go with either a crit chance secondary set or health for the 2 that aren't crit damage or offense. But with Ahsoka, she runs mostly the same under JMK or Padme. So I have health, offense, the offense sets, crit damage triangle. Again, she's low priority right now too, because the speed, I mean, when you get her turn, yes, you can heal up with her special, do some extra damage. But if you don't have that off cooldown, it's not a huge deal. So she's kind of simple, just survivability with health and damage. And then Mace, I don't know if I have him well at all. I've just like left him with a hodgepodge of stats. I've given him more protection because I use him more with JML. So I wouldn't go off my mods at all. I give him offense too because it's really low crit chance. So let's just show that. He does special damage. And his crit chance is abysmal. So don't worry about, just lean into not having crit chance. Give him the offense set and health or triple health. He's pretty flexible, and we'll look at the general consensus there. And now let's look at what the general community has for modding. Start with Padme. Just keep in mind, this is the top 1,000 in Kyber 1. My mods are playing into this set, but it's for high level play, and a lot of these characters are used on different teams like JMK and Qui-Gon Jinn. So I'll make note of that when I can. So for Padme, you want health, health, health. Like, it's a very common set. Like, it's a vast majority. 51% of players use full health. 34% do what I do, speed and health. So I think the speed is worth it. Just getting the extra boost. Make her the fastest on the team, but other than that, health. Health triangle, 79%, just dominant percentage. Cross health, 79%. 88% circle, and 86% speed. So I think I even have speed because you do want her to go first. So like, it's a pretty easy choice for her. Not too much to think about. People don't usually give her a ton of potency. Like, we don't see that in the sets at all. Like, we don't see a potency set making an appearance. And then for the primary on the cross, it is second, but it's only 7%. So that's only really applying to that stun. So not many people focus on it too much. Going to Anakin, just what I said, crit damage and crit chance, with a focus on all the damage stats, and it is health on the circle, like I suggested. However, it's not a dominant percentage like Padme was, over 51%. This is 26% of players use crit damage, crit chance. Another 15 use also crit damage, but health as a secondary. 12% do offense and health. 80% use offense and crit chance. So the most important thing is one of those big damage sets that require 4, so either offense or crit damage. I recommend crit damage, and since I'm doing crit damage, I just lean in, give crit chance too. And the primaries are pretty dominant across the board. Okay, 83% for crit damage, 56% for offense, but a little bit higher for potency, 30%. Like how I was talking about, you need to land that healing immunity and buff immunity sometimes. If you are finding yourself in situations where you use Padme and you need to land those more, you might want to give that potency crossed in. But you would have to have a specific reason. People don't care as much about health on him because they're using him with Qui-Gon Jinn most of the time, and it's kind of irrelevant whether it's health or protection. But on Padme, you definitely want health, and then speed, pretty dominant percentage, 87% with 11% on offense. So pretty clear there, and then like next to nothing for everything else. General Kenobi, also straightforward, health, health, health. That is used by 46% of players in the top 1,000, and then the other people, 82%, have 2 health sets and a defense set, and it's basically a gradient of like full health to full defense. So we got most common is 3 health primaries, no defense. That is 2 and 1, 1 and 2, and then 3 for defense. And only 6% of players use speed. I would not recommend running speed mods. Now he has a great stat pool. You want to modify his health as high as possible, and have as much. Defense is great too. Like, defense sets are fantastic. So I think if you have a great defense set with a health primary, it's worth it to throw in there. It just depends on what you actually have. But for the stats, you'll want health on Padme. Protection, 24% of people have protection, but they're using him in a different way, usually. But it's pretty dominant health, 65% 21, 73% 27. And then for the arrow, this is what I have. I have health. His survivability is most important. I made him slow on purpose. But if you're trying to work in a specific turn order, like a clever thing to do with this team is have Padme, Anakin, General, like have them all go really close to each other. Like if you have them all 1 speed apart, it's going to be like a wombo combo that they can't stop because they can't reduce your turn meter. Your turn meter, it's going to be set in that order no matter what. So Padme will get protection up, then Anakin again is do a AoE and get protection up, and then General Kenobi can call everyone to assist, and Ahsoka can go. And even the 5th character, if you just have them in a line like 1 speed apart, if you can manage that, you're going to knock people out really fast on offense. I don't feel like doing that, but it is a really important thing to do, or it's a really good idea if you can pull it off. But yeah, otherwise, General Kenobi, don't really worry too much about the speed. Just give him some decent speed there. Except for Ahsoka, this is just what I have. Offense set and health set. With focus on the damage primaries, crit damage and offense. I think it's a bit more split because she's used on JMK. Like all these characters are using her with JMK, but on a Padme team, you want to focus on either offense or health. Triple health would be suitable as well. But crit damage, she is assisting a lot, so crit damage is the best way to ensure more damage. People aren't usually using health very often, aren't using offense. She has decent crit chance, so an extra crit chance from her unique, so she is going to crit a lot. Offense most common here, health too. Depends on how much she's dying. I mean, the health translate to protection up just the same into the courage damage as long as she isn't being hit. So a dominant percentage use health there, and then dominant percentage use speed on her arrow. So that's what I recommend doing too. And that's how people are modding her. And Mace, I think this is a you're going to see a lot more variation. So we just focus on health here, but potency 2 for landing, his stun, his ability block, all pretty important. So you're going to see a variety of health and potency sets out there. Most dominant is just pure health. So this is where I'm kind of off in my modding. For a Padme team, I probably would recommend pure health and don't really worry about the damage multipliers. Like don't worry about offense, primary, or crit damage. Definitely not crit damage. His crit chance is terrible. So I would recommend health on him for a Padme team. Health again here. Probably not potency. I would probably still recommend health. Just because he is going to be a tank. He is going to get targeted with resilient defense. And if he's getting attacked at a turn, the more health you have, the more it turns into protection up. And you're getting protection up from everyone anyway. So he, more than most of the team, needs that tankiness. Health 65-35, so definitely recommended. And then speed is definitely recommended on the arrow. I would say do speed, but it wouldn't be the worst if you have a great health primary for the arrow too. And that is, in a nutshell, how to mod the Padme squad. Spent a long time on it, but it is important. And just remember, if you put them all one speed apart, you're ensuring the maximum damage for that chain of courage from the protection up the team generates. Next, we want to talk about Zeta order, and I think the first few are pretty clear-cut. So the first two are Padme's two. I would go with the leadership first because resisting all debuffs and not being critically hit is super important. However, the unique, getting extra protection up from getting attacked out of turn does give you a lot of survivability too. But this is the protection up that doesn't turn into courage. So that's why I'd recommend the leadership first. Well, it can't be dispelled, so I actually don't know. I am fuzzy on the mechanics. If you don't have the Zeta, if it turns into courage or not, because it can be dispelled. But yeah, they're both great for survivability. Resisting debuffs is huge, so I would definitely go for those two first. 1 and 2, I don't know, it's up to you. Third, I would do Ahsoka. Ahsoka, because her utility is so much tied to the Zeta. The assisting constantly out of turn is where a majority of her damage comes from. The dispel, it's just a tool you want in your pocket. Super crucial. So get that third, absolutely. Fourth, I would say Anakin. Anakin is giving Padme a bonus turn after each of Anakin's bonus turns. So if someone falls below 50% health, not only is he going to get a bonus turn, but Padme is too. The reason I put it fourth and not third or second or something is because if you're running the team on offense, you're hoping to avoid the situation more. It's kind of a fail-safe, but you don't want to be falling below 50% health. You want to pick your battles kind of intelligently to avoid that situation, and you can get by a little bit more without that Zeta than with like Ahsoka or something who needs that to be viable. Anakin can do most of the same stuff without that Zeta. She's just not giving the bonus turn to Padme. So that's our first four. Our fifth is General Kenobi. General Kenobi's is super valuable, taunting whenever an ally, Galactic Republic ally, loses protection up, which is going to be constantly. But you still have a way to taunt ally. If they get crit, he's going to taunt. So he still has a semi-perma-taunt capability baked in without the Zeta. So it is an important Zeta, but you can kind of put it off for a little bit on the team. And then the last ones, I wouldn't recommend rushing Mace's Zetas. So Mace has 3 Zetas. He's the most Zeta expensive character on the team. But the other 4 are the key 4, and you could slot someone else in here. So that's why I wouldn't recommend Mace to take priority with his Zetas for this team. If you are going to give his Zetas, I'd probably start with Sense Weakness. It's this number 8 ability where it's recovering protection for the whole team and giving out Foresight to Galactic Republic Jedi. Next, I'd probably do is This Party's Over, which allows you to swap turn meter and give himself resilient defense. But the most important thing is swapping turn meter. Then the last one I'd probably do is Vapod, I think is what it was. Vapod, because it just gives him extra offense per stack of resilient defense and counter chance. It is nice, but I recommend those other two first. And that is all for Zetas on this team. Next thing I want to talk about is a little bonus to the Padme squad. This is Moff Gideon, which you should have access to pretty early in the game. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about an Imperial Trooper character with a Galactic Republic, there's a clear reason, and I don't know when people start figuring this out, but it's pretty powerful. So his second special, Control the Situation, removes turn meter from all units. However, the Padme team does not lose turn meter, so you're not going to lose any. So one, you're going to nerf all their turn meter, and you keep all of yours. But two, the most important thing is he grants support allies 100% protection up. 100%. That's going to translate to 20 stacks of courage, which should be enough to do 160% health damage to the enemy. And it doesn't say Imperial Trooper support allies, it just support allies. So people have been using this for a while. In 3v3, it's useful. Just put Padme, Moff Gideon, and then only support Galactic Republic Jedi. So that would be a completely different lineup than what I showed you. You wouldn't have General Kenobi, you wouldn't have Anakin, you wouldn't have Ahsoka. They're all attackers and tanks. Mace Windu is also a tank. So you'd be looking for people like Yoda, Shakti, Ayla Secura, Barriss Offee, like characters that are supports. They're going to hit super hard. You just get right out the gate. Moff Gideon is a really fast character. I have mine at 340 speed. You get out there, remove all their turn meter, and then you hit them hard. Just be careful. You can't really, it's not as effective against other Padme teams unless you have a speed advantage, but it's not going to remove their turn meter. And Darth Revan. So if Darth Revan is debuffed, which he always is going to be with Moff Gideon, because he puts a debuff on all enemies at the start of his turn, it's irresistible. You're not going to be able to remove their turn meter either. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's the Gidme team. Just keep it in the back of your head. It might help you out a lot. Next section we're going to be talking about is teams that Padme is going to be great at countering, especially early game, but even in late game, like this will work if you see these squads. But some of these squads you're not really going to see later in the game. This was a very requested segment. I'm going to put the most relevant things here. First, it is pretty much a hard counter to Phoenix. So Phoenix, I'm sure, is going to be everywhere in the early game, especially after Captain Rex came in. They are so powerful with the addition of Captain Rex. But what they do a lot of attacking out of turn. So they do a lot of attacking out of turn, and they try to remove your team meter either with Chopper or Staggers from Sabine. You can't have you can't lose turn meter on Padme, so that's one way you counter them. But you're also getting protection up constantly for the attacks out of turn. So what happens if you go against the Phoenix team, if the Phoenix is on defense? They're gonna just hit your Kenobi endlessly until you finally get a turn. And they're probably gonna give you a lot of debuffs. Padme's gonna flip those debuffs into courage, and you start wiping them out super easily. So probably the absolute best counter for Phoenix is the Padme team. So that's why I think it's a team people should not neglect. CLS is also going to be everywhere. Lots of attacks out of turn. Chewbacca's attacking constantly. 3PO's attacking constantly. C-3PO. Confusing with the naming. But there are lots of attacks out of turn and counters. Every time they're attacking out of turn, you're generating protection up. And there's a lot of debuffs, which you are going to resist if you have protection up. Even if they get Genesis down on you, which they do a lot, because Chewbacca has that on his basic. You're not going to be getting debuffed once you have that protection up. So super powerful. If you're taking CLS against Padme, they can beat it, but you have to have a really specific approach to it. So if you see CLS on defense, Padme should be able to handle it if you are using that whole team, especially with General Kenobi. Next, Imperial Troopers, another heavy attack at a turn team. You should be able to withstand the onslaught until you get to go, and then when Imperial Troopers stop taking turns, you can kind of poke holes in them pretty easily. Shouldn't really see this too much on defense, but it's going to be a very common early game team, so I imagine you are seeing it actually a fair bit in the early game. Bounty Hunters should see it a fair bit in the early game too, but they rely on hitting the weakest ally, and what your General Kenobi is going to be taunting constantly, so you should be able to prevent a boss team from getting their contract pretty easily. They're a little bit hard to kill because they have high protection, and the courage doesn't do as well. But if you're smart about it and build up those courage stacks, you should be able to beat a boss team if you see it on defense. Another becoming less common team out there is Shock T team. They have a lot of attacks out of turn, so you should be able to withstand their onslaught and then get the courage, kill them with the courage. However, you would need to target 5s first. It would be kind of a risky battle because Rex is dangerous. He can take out anyone if you give him the chance. So you need to take out 5s fast and then Rex. But I think Padme definitely could handle this team. Although I don't know if we're seeing this out there that much in the early game anymore without the legacy raids. Then the last one, I wouldn't recommend taking Padme against a Starkiller team with Palpatine and Mara Jade. But if you have like an early game Empire team with Palpatine, Vader, Mara Jade, like make it a little bit harder because she has some good dispels and shocks and stuff. But they're a debuff heavy team, even though they don't have a lot of attacks out of turn. Padme can turn all those debuffs into extra damage through courage, and once you get to go, you can take them out pretty easily from there. So I don't know the common lineup everyone's using, but I'm pretty sure it will involve Palpatine, Vader, Mara Jade, probably Thrawn too, and then the 5th, I don't know who you throw in there, Grand Moff Tarkin, TIE Fighter Pilot. Doesn't matter too much. Just make sure you save Padme's cleanse for when you have a lot of debuffs and you're really going to hit them hard once you start getting turns. So yeah, those are just a few recommendations for teams that Padme can handle if you see them on defense. And now time for a quick test run. I don't have really many options to actually fight, so I'm just doing the hardest mod node in the game. Just going to be talking about the mechanics, so I'm not going over specific counters one by one. I'm just going to show how the course of a normal battle will go and decision making. So here we go. This is an instance where we are going first. And I don't have any debuffs on me. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to wipe out this whole team with Anakin's AoE. So getting the courage up would be kind of a waste right now because we're going to go into the next wave and then lose all the protection off and not gain courage from it. Also, stunning wouldn't be a big deal because there's not a huge enemy that I need to get a lot of damage on. So I'll just use a basic here. It's basic there. And then kill them all with Anakin. Not quite every character, but that'll help us generate some courage. That's another interesting thing to note that I didn't talk about. So courage, the game draws on courage last to kill an enemy. So if you have enough damage to kill them without the courage, you'll save it. So right there, Ahsoka had 14 stacks before she went in, and she has 14 stacks now because she killed it without that. Same thing going to be here for Mace. He's likely going to kill. And they have Shatter Point, so what I like to do, if I have this Zeta, I'm going to swap Turn Meter with someone. So I kind of want to give Padme another tune soon, so I'll swap to her. She has full Turn Meter there. So even though we can't generate Turn Meter normally on this team, that's one way to get around it. Now this team, I don't have Anakin's AoE available, so I might, and we keep the courage in between waves, so I might just build up some courage and pop this, because I'm going to have to kill these guys one at a time. That was also an interesting there. So the courage gets used even with attacks out of turn. So there I used the healing move, and even though it's not a damage dealing move, I have Ahsoka there. She's gonna assist, and she used all her courage stacks and killed someone with it. General Kenobi, I don't really need. There's nothing to cleanse. I don't really care about retribution here because I'm gonna get through them pretty easily. Mass assist, there's not a big target out there, so I'll just use a basic and should kill them with a courage. So I'll just move through and kill them. Basic's the only option there. There's Shatter Point here, so I'm going to hit that. I will stun them, and I just want you to look at the healing amount here. So we're stunning them. So you saw they all healed some amount. That's 10% of their protection they healed. And then we'll just go through basics, kill them. Sadly, not converting a lot of courage into this last wave, but it's not a change. However, this thought process should help you in things like territory battle, which you will want to think about those things more in that case. And now this wave is actually coming at me a little bit more, and these characters have a little bit more teeth to them. So a mass assist would possibly be merited here. However, look at the team. I don't have a buff on Padme. I don't have a buff on Anakin, so there's no point there. However, they are going to be attacking. It would be nice to get some retribution, so I'll just do this cleanse, even though I don't have any buffs to take off. So yeah, right here, I could stun someone. Yeah, might as well. But actually, I look at the team. I don't have any protection up, so this isn't going to call anyone except Anakin. So I won't use that there. I'll just use a basic. Now I do a protection up on people. And since we have that Retribution, we're getting counters. Mace would counter anyway. But they're going for Mace, and okay, I don't have a lot of protection up on the team, so I'll just use this big hit to generate some protection up. That's a great use for it. And Mace is going to counter anyway because I have that Zeta. And now we're up to another round of AoE. They have a lot of buffs, and I have Padme on the team, so I can remove all those buffs from them. Very nice. And now we're just a runaway freight train. I'm going to keep converting into protection up and mess them up. So kick, resist it, but still that kill. So yeah, that's a super easy node to do, but I hope this helped you understand the thought process of what to choose when you're using this team on offense. So that is it for this one. That is the whole Padme squad, how it works, the mechanics, the mods, how you actually use them. I hope this really helped you out. It is a team I recommend players go for it in the early game, and it's going to have a lot of holdovers to the late game too. They plug very well into JMK. In 3v3, I still use Padme as a lead a lot. The Gidme team, even though I didn't talk about it too much, it's pretty useful even at the end game. Early game, just such a valuable squad. They're all great fleet ship captains too. We got 2 fleet commanders in the lineup I talked about, and then Anakin and Ahsoka have great ships as well. So don't neglect this team. Try to unlock them as soon as you can and get that up and running. I don't think you'll regret it. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Share your thoughts down below. What's the next team you'd like to see a video like this on? I'd love to hear your feedback. Don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy, and sub if you haven't already. Thanks, everyone. See ya.